Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy, and the first movie news show you are definitely watching today, because we got up at the crack of dawn here to bring you guys all the latest and greatest in the world of movies. On today's show, Leonardo DiCaprio could be telling jokes, The Crow could be back, Shia LaBeouf fame, and Apes together win Oscar? Ashley, who's joining me?
Also, here's Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, 7 in the morning, baby. What's up? Got the coffee. We're talking about Inhumans, right? No, we're not.
Wow, that's a lot of energy. Also here, Perri Nemiroff.
But soon enough, we will be talking about it. I think the only downside to getting up this early is that I have more hours to go now until it premiere tonight. I'm so excited.
Also here, John Rocha.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. How's it going? Thanks, Ashley, for another thrilling introduction.
What do you want from me?
Oh, yeah, and then here's John.
Dude, if you pick
John
on me
Rocha's
one more
here.
time, you will get a
Rocha's here.
different kind of introduction.
I mean, look, I know we're talking about the Joker and how DiCaprio might play him. If not, that laugh by Rocha, just the unprovoked giggle. It's pretty damn impressive. Okay, so before we get to our first official story, which is DiCaprio potentially being the Joker in Martin Scorsese's version of it, we are going to kick off today's show by letting you guys know that the Insidious, The Last Key trailer just dropped, so we're going to quickly talk about it right now. It's the fourth movie in the Insidious franchise. Perri, my question to you is twofold. Did you like this new trailer, and when in the hell in the Insidious timeline does it take place?
That's a really good question, which I haven't been able to figure out, because I don't think they released an official synopsis with this trailer. So, I mean, it comes after number 3, but it still is kind of up in the air if it comes before or after 1 and 2. I think it might be after, I don't know. But with this trailer, the Insidious franchise has a lot of work to do right now, because I loved 1 and 2. I loved 1. 2 isn't as good, but I was still totally fine with that. 3, on the other hand, was just grossly disappointing to me. I walked out of that so sad, because I was such a big fan and I really didn't like that movie. I don't know about what I just saw. I mean, I can see people sitting in a room saying to themselves, wouldn't it be really cool if we had a guy with a key hand? And that's kind of all I saw the entire trailer. So, I don't know. It's the first trailer. I love Lin Shaye. I love that character. I hope I see more in a second one. I'm not that excited right now, though.
As movie fans, we should have like the same bar set for every flick, but this is the fourth movie in a horror franchise, so do we expect it to be great, or are we just going there for some scares, and do you think we're going to get them?
Look, Lin Shaye of Kingpin is one of the greatest actresses ever.
First thing I think about when she's a great actress.
Exactly.
First thing I think about.
First thing I think about as well. I know, because we're in the
really?
same...
Blah, 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 blah.
We share the same brain. Don't look in the back. The rearview mirror. Don't look at it. Anyway, you know what we're talking about. See the movie Kingpin. Whoa. That's what I'm saying. See the movie Kingpin. Whoa. Insidious, right? Keymaster, little key hands and stuff. Whatever. It's stupid. I would see the further musical. That's what I want to see. I want to see people coming out of stuff going, yeah, like weird, like long heads, like screaming songs. That's what I want to see.
There was a cool, like almost like prison jailhouse rock feel to when they go to the further. But I want to see that. It's like Silence of the Lambs when you see all these different like things that are barely maybe at one point were human coming out of their cells. Rocha, you've been to prison. What did you think about this trailer?
It's a terrible place. But no, listen, this is I was kind of interested in this actually, because I love that whole opening with the key going into her throat, and you're like, it's pretty cool. I love that. And then as it gets further, and she's got to go deeper, people. She's going deeper, which I really enjoy. And Lin Shaye, you can have Kingpin. I'll take her. And there's something about Mary as the landlady. I'm glad she has a whole other life here pursuing this paranormal stuff. Yeah, Magda with her little dog and the licking and all that. But look, I think this is actually kind of interesting. And when and the trailer like builds. That's what I enjoy about the trailer. Is that like, okay, we got this, and then we got this, and oh wait, we got a crazy prison with nutty people coming out with weird things on their faces. I can't handle that carnival-esque type vibe to horror. So when it gets to that level, I'm completely scared out of my mind. So if I was dragged to this, I would be squirming in my seat the whole time.
You and Makuga.
Oh yeah, well,
we might be dragging Makuga to another horror movie screening tonight. More on that later on. Quickly, Ashley, Wendy, I want to throw it to you guys. Insidious 4, are we on board for this new horror thriller?
Not even impressed. I'm sorry. Maybe because it's really early in the morning, so I'm not awake. I don't have coffee. I just have water. But it's like what we've seen already. We're not really sure exactly when this takes place in the timeline. But like, I don't know, the key came out of the sleeve and then it like did the scratchy thing on the sparks flew, and I was like, so it's like Freddy Krueger with keys. I don't know. I want to see more, but right now I'm selling it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit cheeseball in the sense of this happens with a lot of horror franchises. The further away we get from the first one, the further I get from the first one. I love the first one. I love the second one, but I don't know. What are we doing with this? Like, come on.
Trying to make money.
Trying to make money. Exactly. I don't know what this trailer was doing. I just felt like it was a bunch of horror movies jumbled into one, and I didn't really see much of a premise there. So
Insidious, the jumbling.
Right, well, you heard it here first. Insidious, the last key. Thanks for playing. Let's move on to our first official story. Let's tell some jokes.
Sources for THR are claiming to have some high hopes for casting in the proposed Scorsese-produced Joker origin story. According to the trade, Warner's will make an ambitious attempt to use Martin Scorsese to bring Leonardo DiCaprio on as the clown prince of crime. Though there's no offer yet for DiCaprio, and THR is also saying that Scorsese's deal to produce isn't finalized just yet, the attempt to sign DiCaprio is a signal for Hollywood that WB is looking to hire serious filmmakers to make serious award-caliber films based on their DC properties. Mark, thoughts on a Joker film possibly starring Leonardo DiCaprio?
I think it'd be great. I mean, I'd love to see a Joker movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But do I think that Leo should be at the short list of a lot of studios for a lot of projects? Of course I do. He's one of the best actors we have. And I guess, Rocha, you can get a little bit more credibility with this particular story because it is Martin Scorsese producing this take. So we know how well Scorsese and DiCaprio work in the past, but this would be as the same level if they said that maybe Robert De Niro wants to come in and play the Riddler. You know, it's like, well, you can't discard it out of hand because of Scorsese's involvement, but it just seems like there's just too much going on with DiCaprio's career, first of all, and the fact that it's an actor taking on another Joker. We're so far removed from the Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger. We most recently had Jared Leto as the Joker, and it just seems like that role might not have the prestige that it once could have. So do you think that Leonardo DiCaprio would be interested in playing the Joker?
I think he'd probably take meetings. I think he'd discuss it. I think he'd figure it out. It would depend on the script, because you're right. Where he's at now, he can pick and choose whatever he wants to do next. And he's established himself on a number of arenas as an actor. And certainly what he did in Inglourious Basterds is as close to the Joker as you can get. It's basically an audition tape to play the Joker. So I enjoy that about him, that he has that potential to be there. But what's interesting about this whole article is Todd Phillips is barely mentioned. I think I'd be more excited if Martin Scorsese was directing this film with DiCaprio as the Joker. I think that would get me on board more. And it's a great reference you make with De Niro, because De Niro in Mean Streets, that's your Riddler. That would be an interesting Riddler, that young De Niro in Mean Streets. But I think DiCaprio will explore it. It depends on the script. And we've seen crazier things happen, right? But he's the kind of guy that immediately lends an incredible amount of credibility to a revamped Joker. If you're going to go origin story in the 80s. Now, he's in his 40s, so I don't know how young you're going to make him to do this origin story, because that's what they're saying. It's an origin story in an alternate universe, that kind of stuff. And when you throw in the Matt Reeves thing in there, saying that he might be creating a Batman in an alternate universe as well, then we've got this potential to take it into a darker place. So DiCaprio would play a darker Joker. This is not a PG-13 Joker. And so that excites me about the project more than anything else. And if Reeves gives me an R-rated Batman, then I'm all of a sudden thrilled out of my mind about the DCEU in this new direction that they're thinking about taking.
Wait a second.
For me, I'm on board with it.
Did you say Inglourious Basterds?
Yeah, what he did. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I meant, I'm sorry, Django.
Django.
All right.
Sorry
thanks.
about that.
You were freaking me out. I was like, I don't remember Leonardo.
It's 7 a.m. It's 7 a.m.
Yeah, I was going through. I was like, Rocha's on some kind of drugs. Or am I?
I still the director
that's
right.
Neither here or there, but Schnepp, if you will, take my hand. Let's walk into this magical world of imagination where, let's say, Leo is the Joker. What does that do, not just for the credibility of that film, but also the separate universe that Warner Brothers wants to create? Because with this, they're trying to attract a different sect of filmmakers and stars where they will be considered for Oscars and stuff like that. So you get a little bit more credibility as opposed to your typical comic book fare. Do you think that that would be the boon that this new universe needs?
Does it need it? Maybe. I mean, I think they're already doing that when they got Tilda Swinton, they got Cate Blanchett, they got all these different, I mean, even Tom Hiddleston. Like, they're getting, and they've been getting amazing actors and actresses through the Marvel films. I mean, that they got Ben Affleck to play Batman is quite a coup. I mean, Oscar-winning director, Oscar-winning screenwriter, none of which they're using. Leonardo's not going to play the Joker. I'll just tell you that. I mean, it's fun to see pictures of him with damage on his face and have him dressed up in clown makeup. He's not going to do it. Why? Because Scorsese's not directing it. Scorsese's produced a ton of movies that, you know, that Leonardo would not be in, and this is one of them. So I don't feel like just because they're slapping Leonardo Scorsese's name on it doesn't mean that they get Leo. So this is not even a given. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is going to play the Joker.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
That's a great
Well,
choice.
that's actually that spins into my next question, Perry. Is do you think DiCaprio has a chance at actually playing the Joker? And if not, who are you casting? Jake Gyllenhaal is now off the board.
Oh man, I would have picked Jake Gyllenhaal too. I'm a huge Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I think he should have gotten some Academy Award nominations, if not wins, in the past few years.
He was kind of Joker-y in Nightcrawler,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I really love Nightcrawler
Yeah.
though, but I don't know. If you ask me, do I want to see a Leonardo DiCaprio-led Joker origin movie? Heck yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I want to see that, but he is probably not going to do it, and who even knows if Scorsese's going to do it, because his deal isn't closed yet either. And if he was directing it, I would probably take this a little more seriously.
Right.
But even if he does close his deal, he's only producing it. He's not directing it. I don't see Leonardo DiCaprio taking on a superhero role, well, a villain, but you guys know what I mean, in a superhero movie for Todd Phillips, because as Adam Chitwood pointed out in the .com article, you know how many of these superhero movie roles he's been offered at this point? He doesn't take any. I don't think he's going to take this one first, but I will say I kind of like the idea of what they're trying to do with this. It's just a little unfortunate because it's too late because they already started the DCEU, but I love the initiative to at least take DC properties and say, you know what? Like, let's make them one-off movies. Let's let the director do whatever he wants to do. Let's take some risks and try to make some really great content with these properties. That I really admire. It just sucks that it comes after we've gotten X amount of DCEU movies where some of these roles that they might want to explore in these standalone movies are already taken by other actors, other Academy Award winning actors like Jared Leto, who I don't think got the opportunity to do what he fully could do in Suicide Squad. And now he has to see this movie being offered to someone else. I kind of feel bad for him. And if I'm going to play that game, I would say let Jared Leto do it and kind of smooth out all this what's DCEU, what's not DCEU nonsense, and figure something out that works for everyone.
Well, regardless of your thoughts on the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad, I still think that you can watch Jared Leto's portrayal as a Joker and say, there's some interesting backstory here. I want to explore that, because what this movie purports to do is have a Scorsese-like crime, gritty underworld of Gotham City and the Joker as one of the bosses of that place. That was kind of the Jared Leto Joker that we got. So if you're going to have this movie, and not only is it a different Joker, but he's also very similar to the one that we also have on screen. Now, all the reports right now are that Jared Leto is not thrilled with the fact that they are doing another Joker, and nobody can blame him for feeling like that. Another thing that was buried in this, the Hollywood Reporter article, they really worked hard over Labor Day, was that Matt Reeves' Batman does not have Ben Affleck confirmed or signed on to be Batman in that movie. So I'm sorry I got to throw it out there to everybody again, but that's the latest, and we're not sure if we're back to square one, if it's just a rumor right now, but there's a lot of outlets running with this, including an article on Collider.com, so you guys can check that out for more information. Speaking of Matt Reeves, he made a pretty good Apes movie once upon a time, and it appears that Fox might be positioning that to win some statues. Tell us about it, Ashley.
It looks as though Wonder Woman isn't the only major blockbuster getting a serious Oscar campaign this year. Per Deadline, 20th Century Fox is planning to mount a major push, including Best Picture for the well-reviewed third installment of the Apes franchise, War for the Planet of the Apes. Deadline's report states that Fox is not only hoping to land Oscar nominations, but that the studio will also make a concerted effort to get Andy Serkis a Special Achievement Award. To mount the campaign, Fox has reportedly hired a couple of top awards consultants who plan to revolve the entire campaign around the movie as a whole instead of focusing on one particular achievement. Perry, what do you think of War for the Planet of the Apes Oscar chances?
Depends what category we're talking about. I'm excited to hear all this, and I'm always shocked to remind myself that these movies have never won a VFX Academy Award. Isn't that crazy?
What? That's nuts.
So I'm excited to have them mount a campaign for a category like that, where I think it's a possibility. Of course, it's dependent on what comes out the rest of the year, but I would want to see it win for that, for score, for all those kinds of categories. Do I think it has any shot of winning Best Picture or maybe getting Serkis a Best Actor nomination? Probably not, especially given what we're hearing coming out of festivals like Venice and Telluride. TIFF is coming up. It sounds like it's going to be a pretty stacked year, and I don't see this movie actually having a shot. It could get a nomination because I think we're hitting a point in time where the Academy consists of so many new voters, so many voters that are going to see all these commercial films, that we're going to start to see them within those 10 nominations. I don't think it has any chance of winning, but I do like the idea of them gunning for a special achievement award more so than pushing for him to get Best Actor, because that is a time that I don't think we're anywhere near. People still don't know what to make of those kinds of performances, and I don't think he would stand a chance versus, you know, right now, based on what I'm hearing about Gary Oldman's performance. He's not going to stand a chance in that category. I would like to see Andy Serkis get recognition, and this seems like the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would never discount Andy Serkis' performance as not being award worthy. The issue that you have is you just don't know what is real and what is the performance capture, what is the post done with that. And I'm sure that even in the Gary Oldman movie where he's playing church, it's like, maybe there was some post done. Maybe there was some touch-up done. You just don't know anymore. But the eye test, it doesn't pass that yet for a Best Actor standpoint, in my humble opinion. I will say that Andy Serkis is probably overdue for a Special Achievement Award because of how he has single-handedly almost been able to further this kind of technology. As far as the other award categories like cinematography, the music, the visual effects, yes, yes, and yes, and more yeses, because I think War for the Planet of the Apes has a Return of the King feel to it, where not only was it a great standalone movie, it was a great culmination of an incredible trilogy. And the Oscars like to sometimes give out awards that can double as Lifetime Achievement Awards. And I think certainly this trilogy is worthy of it, Rocha. And as we know, the oldest rule in comedy is that there's nothing funnier than chimpanzees in tuxedos. Will that translate into apes in tuxes?
Yeah, maybe those CGI Andy Serkis coming out to accept the award.
It's never not funny. You put a cigar in their mouth, it is the funniest thing ever.
Once upon a time, there was a show called Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp, and that was the best. And you should go back in the 70s and watch that stuff. But anyway, listen, I wrote about this before. I disagree a little bit with our host, Mark Ellis. I actually think he should be nominated for Best Actor because I think it does pass the eye test. It certainly destroys anything you saw in Rogue One from Grand Moff Tarkin. He is so believable. He moves you through all three of those movies. I mean, at the end of this trilogy, I was in tears because of the performance of Andy Serkis. And it's not just the CG. It's what coming through the eyes. It's in the voice. It's in the movement of the ape because he's wearing the mocap. He's in that place. And I think actually we're closer than we've ever been before to having someone nominated for this because the Academy is striving to get younger. And younger people look at this and value this a little bit more than the older people do, caught up in the old thing. You have to actually physically, because what's the difference? You wearing a bunch of makeup and a fat suit and you wearing CGI, your performance is still coming through whatever you're layered on. So for me, I think he should have been nominated for Best Actor, Oscar. I think this whole idea of a specialty is nice, but I think it's what they do to kind of make themselves feel better because they don't have the guts to nominate him, and that bothers me a lot. But overall, I think the film should be nominated.
I was disagreeing with you. Okay. I promise I was disagreeing with you.
It's all right. But I think the film deserves to be considered for Best Picture. I loved it. It's got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Last year, the slew of the Best Picture nominees averaged $72 million at the box office. So don't come at me with this as a flop. It shouldn't be nominated. Don't come at me with that. It's an incredibly well-reviewed film. It's a fantastic film. I enjoyed the score and the cinematography as well, and the acting all about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it got nominated, and I wouldn't begrudge it a nomination, but I just don't think there's enough of that kind of like internal organic buzz for it to be nominated. And I think Perry's right. There's more films coming out that are going to take its place. And you're right, that Darkest Hour is already getting incredible reviews from so many people who are there. So maybe it's just up against way more stiffer competition. Maybe in a weaker year, it could be considered a little more firmly.
Yeah, my question is actually, Schnepp, do you think that if they gave Andy Serkis like a Special Achievement Award at the Oscars, that would hamper the future of people who are in performance capture kind of roles from getting Oscar consideration, because now it's kind of like they just wedge it in with its own category as opposed to having it compete against the other best actors and actresses?
I don't know if they got a real dog for the Inhumans, Lockjaw.
You love that screening experience.
But, I mean, I'm not trying to compare War of the Planet of the Apes to the incredible IMAX experience that is the Inhumans. Oh, boy! Anyway, I think Andy Serkis deserves an Oscar, like an honorary Oscar, for the work that he's done in the promotion and expansion of performance capture. I don't know if that's this year. I don't know if that's next year or a few years from now, but he'll eventually get that Oscar from all of his work. I don't feel that his performance as any of the apes that he played yet, or any certain actor, not just him, but anybody who does performance capture, is in the same realm as a human actor portraying a human actor. It's not the same thing. Show me a button, Rocha, that you press and the thing is done, and then I'll give him an Oscar, because that doesn't exist. Okay, it doesn't exist.
What do you mean a button?
A button like, okay, now you're an ape, and it's going to mimic everything that you did, every subtlety. It does not exist on the planet. It's not real, because there's people called artists, computer graphics artists, who are correcting and fixing every eyebrow, every small lip movement. Every single frame is corrected by hundreds of artists. So sorry, I'm not going to discount regular actors who are in regular movies for an actor whose performance enhanced. It's like taking drugs, dude. So I'm saying it's a different category altogether. Performance acting needs its own category if they're going to give it an Oscar.
I think that would be a cop-out to me. It's like what they did animated. We do Best Animated Feature, so it doesn't get considered for Best Picture nomination, which I think is ridiculous as well. But no, I think you're incorrect here, John, in my opinion, because he is acting it all. They're layering everything on top of the performance he's already giving in mo capture. If you watch those behind the scenes and you watch those videos of him, he is wearing the suit. He is doing the acting. He's doing so. All they're doing is layering the special effects on him.
That is a cop out. The layering. What are you talking about? Why don't you sit with an artist?
They're accentuating what he's
doing.
You're
not doing. You're not. I've sat in rooms with people who do this stuff. You haven't.
I have. Yes, I have.
Well, then
because I do voiceover and I go and see what they do.
Well, voiceover is different than directing.
I have a lot of friends who do mocap, so
I'm happy that you do. It doesn't matter. I think you're wrong.
All right.
This is exactly why he's not going to get nominated for a Best Actor award.
Yeah, this is why I said there's not
don't
internal
need
buzz
coffee
to
at
make it.
7 a.m. if you have 2 points of view.
I see where he's coming from, but I just disagree.
No, but look, the bottom line is the movie's really good. And so you should have recognition for a really good movie. I just think that it is very tough to put this performance in with other best lead actors. I root for Andy Serkis, though whenever he gets a statue, it will be well-deserved, and the speech is going to be a little more harmonious than what we just had. I love debate. All right, let's move on to our next story, which is the box office.
After the long holiday weekend, it's time for the weekend box office report. Lionsgate's The Hitman's Bodyguard took the #1 spot again for the third weekend in a row, with an estimated $10.5 million for 3 days and $13.37 million for the 4-day, with a domestic total now at $58 million. Annabelle Creation took the #2 spot with an estimated $7.5 million over the 3 days and $9.3 million over the 4-day. The Weinstein's Wind River brought in an estimated $6.24 million for the 3-day weekend, and the #3 spot grabbing almost $8 million over the 4-day. The Weinsteins also finished in 4th position with Leap, which took in $4.9 million over 3 days and $6.6 million over the 4-day weekend. And rounding out the top 5 was Logan Lucky, taking in $4.5 million for the 3-day and $5.7 million for the 4-day holiday weekend. Rocha, thoughts on the weekend box office?
My thoughts are this is interesting because this is the lowest. This is the worst 3-day Labor Day weekend in 12 years, right? And the studios didn't release a new movie this year, which probably helps that statistic even more, according to Box Office Mojo. The top 12 grossed a combined $51.5 million, and you have to go back to 2000 to match anything close to that when it did $47 million. There were some positives. Wonder Woman crosses this to become the 6th highest grossing superhero film. Will get to #5 by the end of this week, so that's a positive thing as well. But people are like, oh, does this mean the end of the box office or the end of summer? Or does this mean like we shouldn't release movies? No, it's not that. It's just that there maybe this particular summer had some reboots that maybe people didn't 100% agree with, or sequels that they weren't well done, like Alien Covenant, all these that people weren't gravitating to. But this week, we have 3 films coming out that are averaging, supposedly tracking at $40 million each. That's insane. That's almost never happened. So you can do doom and gloom if you like, but there's positives coming out of this weekend as well. And the overseas box office so far this year is up 3%. So things are shifting. Things are changing. We're in a transitional place as a movie-going audience, it's no longer just domestic stuff. The international stuff is becoming more and more important. We've seen this already, but it's become when we have bad summers like this, we look at it domestically, but in fact, internationally, the box office is up. So this is how you have to kind of change your mindset a little bit about how you look at the box office. It isn't just what we have here in front of us here in the States. There's more going on across the world.
Yeah, and as far as the domestic box office goes, Rocha's right. It was just a confluence of events where you didn't have new movies opening. You had Tulip Fever in limited release, and you had Close Encounters of the Third Kind 40th anniversary, which actually did make more money than Inhumans, so I know you're happy about that. Yeah. But we celebrate every milestone that Wonder Woman does, deservedly so. There was another milestone that was hit, is that Girls Trip crossed $100 million. That is the first film that is written, directed, produced, and starring an African-American cast to do that. So hats off, long overdue Girls Trip. It is probably the funniest movie of the summer, if not the year. Perri, what is your takeaway from this weekend at the box office?
Yeah, this weekend was a little sad, except for that. I'm glad you bring up a fact like that, because that at least is very exciting.
Yeah,
not
I bring
as
sunshine
exciting
to an early morning.
You really do, Ellis. Not as exciting as that fact is that Annabelle Creation passed the first Annabelle, which makes me really happy. Someone who didn't like the first Annabelle and loves this one. That one is also coming close to crossing the $100 million mark. It might, at least. And if it does, it's going to be the only August release to do so, which... good for Annabelle Creation, kind of sad for box office, but all these numbers at least were just a little higher than I thought they were going to be. When I was doing my predictions, I had most of these movies dropping, and I wasn't really taking into account the Labor Day weekend just because I didn't think it was going to help any of them. And they all made a little more than I thought, which is kind of cool. But the best thing about these low numbers right now is that it paves the way so perfectly for it. All I want in this world right now is to see that movie gobble up all the money. Yep. And with the numbers so low right now, I don't think the odds could be in its favor more than they are. So yay for it.
That's right. If this last 3 weeks have just been set up for it, it's all been preamble for Pennywise the Clown to come on screen, probably murder some kids, and give us a new record for September box office. Jon Schnepp. I will have another piece of good news here, is that Wind River's a movie that because there wasn't a lot of competition, it expanded its theater count, but not by that many, and it still pulled in over $6 million, which was good for third place. So now that movie's made $18 million on a budget of 11, and it seems to be getting that early Oscar buzz.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wind River is a especially good film to come out, especially in these kind of doldrums where, you know, I didn't see The Hitman's Bodyguard. I went and saw The Inhumans. I screwed up.
$1.5 million.
I really screwed up. That Close Encounters, an incredible, amazing film, 40 years can beat The Inhumans, should just tell you something that you should see Close Encounters on the big screen. If you haven't gotten a chance, it stands the test of time. It is one of Spielberg's greatest films. They don't call him the greatest director on the planet, a living director on the planet for nothing. The guy, Jurassic Park, we just saw last week. Just so many movies. He shoots them back to back. The guy's incredible. I was just reading an interview with him this morning. Just want to talk about Spielberg. I don't care about this box office shit.
There were some great movies in theaters this weekend, including Jurassic Park, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Terminator 2. Make sure you see these new movies. I think they're going to be remembered for a long time. All right, let's move on to buy or sell. Ashley's going to give us a premise. We say whether we buy it or sell it, and sometimes it involves birds.
According to the tracking board, the long-delayed, long-in-development reboot of The Crow has finally found a home and is closer to moving forward after a decade languishing at Relativity Pictures. The trade reports the reboot will be distributed by Sony Pictures, though as of now, Jason Momoa and director Corin Hardy are not signed on. Insiders over at THR, however, say that Sony does plan to include them and are currently working out deals to sign them on. Schnepp, buy or sell The Crow reboot actually finally happening now that Sony will distribute.
I'm sorry, what? What are you talking about? Oh, The Crow. That's right.
Yeah.
I heard Leonardo DiCaprio, they're trying to get him to play The Crow. Ooh, Eric Draven. Heard Scorsese might be producing it. The Crow, it's going to be great.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I don't think, come on.
Did Casey Affleck tell you that?
Casey Affleck, we were hanging out, and he said, look, Schnepp, I got to tell you something really quickly. Don't say and don't tell anybody. But Leonardo's going to be Eric Draven. I said, who? The Crow. And then he slapped me.
If you give me the star and this director, particularly the star, like Jason Momoa, I think would be so great as Eric Draven. But ever since I started doing, way back when it was AMC Movie Talk, hosted by John Campea, Schnepp, we've been talking about the Crow reboot for a long time.
Forever.
Can't get excited about it. How about you?
Yeah, it's kind of, Yeah, like you said, we've been hearing this story for so long in so many different iterations.
Look in the little corner. There's Brandon Lee. Look, there he is.
That's a great crow.
That's
a
the
fantastic
only
film.
crow that actually is really good.
Yeah, even the 4 sequels
Yeah,
were not
that's
worth
the best
it because
crow.
he was Vincent
Alex
Perez could
Proyas,
not bring
baby.
that thing to
Yeah.
life. No, it's gone from Bradley Cooper to Tom Hiddleston to Luke Evans. But I would be surprised if Momoa signs on for this. Aquaman is already getting this kind of exciting buzz for it. It's a larger property than The Crow, and I think if he's going to do that, it catapults him into another section. Going The Crow is going to a smaller kind of franchise, smaller quote unquote superhero type vibe to him. But I don't think it's in Momoa's wheelhouse anymore. I think he's kind of moved past this. But I'd be surprised if they did it.
What if he gets to use a guitar instead of a trident? You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I mean.
Then that's Doctor Who.
I'm
Then
holding
that's
it out.
Doctor Who
I'm
with
holding it
Capaldi.
out. Like Sony. I don't care what movie they're saying they're making, but if they get Jason Momoa back and he's playing the Crow, then I'm excited again. I don't care much as we're rebooting it again. Yawn.
And they've shown that they can do like Baby Driver is Sony, Spider-Man Homecoming is Sony, so they've got even that new Flatliners remake that has a kind of darker vibe to. So there's certainly a possibility here that it's at the right home. I just don't think Momoa is going to be the one that does it.
Right now, Corin Hardy is busy at work on The Nun, Perry. That's for new, and so he will have something under his belt by the time this would go into production. You put any credibility in a Crow reboot happening sooner rather than later now that it's at Sony.
I love how I thought you were going to ask me about Corin Hardy for a minute, and then you asked me if there's any credibility to this story. I am not buying this story. I'm not
I'm not the one Ashley's trying to sell it to you. I'm not selling the
so.
end.
Forget it, though.
I blame Ashley.
Yeah.
I'm just an innocent bystander, okay?
Ashley's got her the kiosk over there, and she's trying to sell us
Blame
news story. We
Riley,
just say whether we
blame
buy it or
Riley.
sell it.
No, yeah, not buying this. That's for sure. I'm in the same boat as you. I was writing for Collider.com, and I don't even know how many times I covered this story and started my article with, this might be the time. It might actually happen. No, it's not happening, and I don't believe it, even though it landed at Sony. And I don't think this is a good project for Sony either. I mean, I just go back to their Ghostbusters movie. They had a big franchise with all the potential in the world like that, and it didn't pop. And I don't think that this is the kind of franchise for them to actually do something great with it, where I don't think it's ever going to be an issue with Momoa not sticking with it because he's like, I'm Aquaman now. I'm too big for this stuff. I think he already signed on with
Jeez, I
Corin
didn't say you said
Hardy.
it like
No,
that.
but he already signed on with Corin Hardy. So I feel like if both of them go over, they're going to stick with it. And I still think he is looking for other franchises because what actors in his position aren't exploring those kinds of options? I just don't think this is going to ever take off. I mean, maybe I'll believe it when it is in production. Maybe I'll give them a little more credit and believe it's going to happen when they give it an official green light. But I am as far away from buying this story as possible right now.
Yeah, it's hard to trust like Instagram posts from actors like, oh, you really want to be the Crow, but with Pierce Brosnan's going to be Cable. Like, we can't go crazy with that yet. So the fact that this reboot landed somewhere else, great. Whether it's Sony, whether it's whoever, we need more people attached to get excited about the Crow. So Ashley, we are selling it as of right now. Stop trying to push the Crow on us. You got anything else?
Riley. Next story. You ready to go?
I
I
can't
am
possibly.
ready to go.
What could possibly be the next story? I don't know.
I hope it's something that we buy.
We'll see. Speaking to Entertainment Weekly, Indiana Jones 5 screenwriter David Koepp revealed that Indy's son, Mutt, played by Shia LaBeouf in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, will not return for the 5th installment of the franchise. The writer offered the update on the movie, also revealing that he hopes it will be Spielberg's next film after he releases his drama, The Post, later this December. Indiana Jones 5 currently has a release date set for July 10th, 2020. Mark, do you buy or sell a 5th Indiana Jones movie without Shia LaBeouf's Mutt character?
As hard as it might be to have an Indiana Jones without Shia LaBeouf, I think we can pull this one off. I will say this. I didn't hate Shia LaBeouf as much at all. I actually enjoyed his role in that movie, and I also thought Harrison Ford was really good in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I just thought that the story we told got weirder and worse in places we didn't necessarily want to go, and the effects weren't like for the story, the swinging through the tree. There's a lot of bad stuff about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't think Shia LaBeouf was the worst part. I don't think we need him back, though. And I think that if you're going to hit a soft reset button on that movie, that it makes sense to jettison the character of Mutt, because I just think audiences were very resistant. Even though Harrison Ford's a lot older and we might be passing a torch to another Indiana Jones, we just didn't want to see that with Shia LaBeouf, whether it's the actor, whether it's the character who's playing. There wasn't a lot of clamor for that after that movie. So I think it makes sense to just say, hey, thanks for playing, and we're going to just step back and go in a different direction. The big question here is, because it was kind of set up that Mutt might be related to Indiana Jones, Perry, is Indiana Jones just going to be like a deadbeat dad in this one? Is he just going to have this kid Mutt that he doesn't talk to? Is there going to be like a picture of Mutt right next to a picture of Sean Connery on somebody's desk? Or do you think we just don't talk about this and he's going to be like that older Cunningham kid from Happy Days?
I agree with you in that he was not the worst part of that movie, but I give them all the narrative leeway they need to get as far away from that as possible. And I think Shia LaBeouf kind of forced their hand too. Even if they wanted to include him, it's a little difficult to separate someone's real life behavior and some of the other roles they're taking from something that's supposed to be a little more family friendly, action adventure, and wholesome. So I have absolutely no problem with him not being in this next movie. It makes me feel a little bit better about the next movie, and it's not going to be easy to just remove that little story beat that they dropped in the last one, but I don't really care what they do. I want them to take it out no matter what, and if it's not a seamless transition, I'm willing to give them the leeway in this situation.
Yeah, Schnepp, do you agree with Perry? I certainly do. Is that I think most audiences are going to be like, whatever you need to do to get us out of this Mutt trap, we are happy to go on board with that, even if it includes another fridge nuke. How do you feel?
Spielberg, here's an idea for you. Like you need my idea. Starting out Mutt, and then you pull back, and it's like the cemetery. It's his gravestone. And Indiana Jones is standing there like, thank God you're dead. He's going to be dead. He's not in there. He's dead. Some adventure happened. He fell off his bike. Look at the picture. He's got Mutt on. He's got a Mutt name tag. Get out of here.
Ooh, boy.
Get out of here. I think LaBeouf did it to himself. He shouldn't have opened his big mouth and talked mad shit, talking horrible stuff about Spielberg, this and that. That's why he's not in the movie. That's the honest truth. It's because they were all ready to make a Mutt and Indy team-up film if they were ever going to do another one. The Crystal Skull was horrible for multiple different reasons, but LaBeouf wasn't the main reason. It was horrible. His big mouth is the reason he's not in the sequel. So,
Rocha, can you, because the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did a lot to further the mythology of Indiana Jones, but also, I mean, it showed us like the origins of like Area 51, and all of a sudden we had some aliens involved. Do you think that we can just pretend like that didn't happen, and do you think that the script is going to pretend like the entire movie didn't happen, or do you think we just gently step away from the character?
Yes, it didn't happen. Rocky V never happened. Jaws the Revenge never happened. These films never happened in these franchises. I think audiences like to embrace this and go, nope, never happened. Happy to move on. We gave it you gave it a shot. We experimented with you. We didn't like it. Let's move on. I buy this completely. Mutt should not come back. I do agree. He kind of made his own bed and he's got to lie on it. Leto did this as well with the Joker. He said a lot of crap after Suicide Squad came out. So this may be the reason why they're moving away from Jared Leto as well. So it's very related. You can't talk crap. You never bite the hand that feeds you, because that's the thing these are the things that can happen to you. But I think overall, irrelevant of that, I think people were definitely bashing this idea of him as Mutt throughout the movie. He's just attached to a bad situation that brings back memories. It's why you don't see a lot of prequel references in these new Star Wars movies, because they want to move as far away from possible from that for now, and then they'll slowly come back to
midi-chlorians, but that happened.
Exactly.
That's real.
That's canon.
Midi-chlorians.
Yeah, right. We're not going to see that. So
It is a lot. Look, the Star Wars galaxy is a lot bigger than Indiana Jones, though.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a lot easier for a Star Wars movie to be like, we don't really feel like talking about midi-chlorians, and they might exist somewhere else, as opposed to Indiana Jones's kid, who he just reconciled with.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's like, but we don't even know what the timeline for this movie is. Is it going to be Indiana Jones in the 60s? It's going to be an older Harrison Ford. We're not going to be mocapping him the entire time. We're not going to be doing that age reduction technology, as far as I know. Maybe they will. But I just think that it's going to be a little awkward, but most audiences are just going to be willing to be like, yeah, okay, you want to do this with us, movie? We're totally happy if the movie's good.
And it's unfair, because he did a great job in Fury. That guy is Shia
He's
LaBeouf.
a damn good
when
actor.
he has the right material, he's a damn good actor.
Charlie Countryman, that was a fun
Yeah,
film.
right,
You know
exactly.
what? He should wear a bag on his head. Here's an idea for you, LaBeouf. It begins with LaBeouf crying, and tears are. You see the tears through the wet
Performance
bag.
piece?
Yeah, and he's on this train like, ah! and Harrison's like waving goodbye, and then Indy, and he starts his new adventure, but he gets rid of him.
Is there a way to get like the bag, like the Unknown Comic, but then also make that into like a fedora?
I like it.
Fedora
Paper garbage
These
bag.
references,
Yeah.
man, we're losing the whole
Yeah, you're welcome, everybody, at Indy 5 for all these great ideas that we're throwing at you this morning. We want to remind you guys that Collider Movie Talk is not the only daily show here on Collider Video's YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe, because we also have Heroes is going to be daily later Later on today, you're going to get a brand new nugget of comic book goodness with Jon Schnepp's Heroes, and TV Talk is also going to be live after this here program, hosted by the lovely Josh McCouga. And a new Schmodown dropped yesterday, and boy, is it a doozy. It's a celebrity Schmodown featuring the cast of It. All of the kids, the Losers Club, competed in a Schmodown. Perri, I think everybody here at the studio watching that event, including myself, we were behind the scenes, and we just had a huge smile on our face start to finish.
You don't know how happy that makes me. I was just so excited when all the kids, because like you talk about those things and you plan it, and I just sit there and wait for it to all fall apart, and then all of a sudden they're here and everyone's having fun, and everybody in this studio just crushed it. Everyone just had so much fun. They were so organized, and they really just made it feel like a fun game for those kids. I hope they had fun. I hope everybody goes to see It this weekend. I'm just so excited about the Schmodown. Go watch it if you haven't yet.
And they are really good at trivia, too. Finn Wolfhard came up and he's like, oh, I'm a fan of you guys. And it's like, no. We are fans of you. Thanks for watching, Finn. You have the coolest last name I've ever heard. All right, let's move on to mailbag. But we want to remind you guys that at the end of the show, we're going to save a couple minutes for your live Twitter questions. So go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. In the meantime, Ashley, they've been emailing us all weekend, collidervideo@gmail.com. What do we got today?
Will writes, over the weekend, Ron Howard revealed that Paul Bettany would be joining young Han Solo. So was his part added because of reshoots? Wouldn't he have already been cast even under Lord and Miller? My question, do you think they wrote in a part for him, and what do you think he possibly could be playing?
Well, I hope that they wrote in a part for him, because there's a lot of rumors and speculation that it's Paul Bettany is taking over the role or the service in the story that would have been Michael K. Williams because of scheduling conflicts. Michael K. Williams from The Wire would not be able to come back to do the extensive reshoots necessary for young Han Solo. So the optics on this are not good, Rocha, because I would have liked to have seen another black actor step in and play that role. But Paul Bettany, he's accomplished. He's somebody you needed as a stopgap measure. So I'm ambivalent to this story right now because I don't have more information. What kind of role do you think Bettany's playing?
Yeah, I think he probably is replacing the part that Michael Kenneth Williams was going to play. It could be scheduling conflicts. It could be the situation that they felt Paul was a better actor for the role after they had done the reshoots or done some of the rewriting on the script. So I don't want to run with this and go crazy about it too far just yet. But yes, I agree with you, Mark. I think the optics are bad. Minority actors have a really hard time getting into science fiction movies, getting into future movies, unfortunately. And so when you remove one to replace him with a British white actor, it's really hard. And also it's harder, too, because Paul Bettany is a fantastic actor. I loved him as Vision. I loved him in just about everything I've ever seen him in. So it's even harder because I do want to see, I'm excited to see what he could do with this part, but I would have liked to have seen what Michael Kenneth Williams could have done as well. So if it is a tit-for-tat replacement, then the optics are not great. But I think we shouldn't just jump on it and run with it just yet till we get more information, because it just got announced.
Schnepp, how do you see the Bettany role factoring into a galaxy far, far away?
Man, if you haven't seen The Wire, check out Omar. Yeah. That's all I could say. Omar. That put Michael K. Williams on the map. He's a great actor, so to see him not in a movie after he was announced to be in a movie is a bummer. I think Paul Bettany's a great actor, too. I don't know if he's swapping out the role. No one's confirmed that, yay or nay, so I'm not going to conjecture about that. I think it's unfortunate that Michael K. Williams is not in this new Han Solo film, so I'm bummed about that. I'm interested to see, I know we'll never get a chance to see what the comedy Ace Ventura version of Han Solo was going to be. That I'm more interested in seeing what that version of that movie was going to be, and then never see it again. So I'm glad that Ron Howard stepped in to make a real Han Solo movie, so that's what we're going to get.
Perri Nemiroff, your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's unfortunate for all the reasons that Rocha pointed out, but I can't really give them a full pass, but Ron Howard has worked with Paul Bettany before. It would make sense in my mind if he needs to kind of fill this gap in the narrative in a quick manner where he feels most comfortable that he can achieve. Like, if he has a shorthand with Bettany, I kind of understand it, but it's unfortunate. The source that I've been leaning on with this right now is Slash Film, and in their report, they said that he's basically taking on the same role that Michael K. Williams would have played, and that instead it's going to be a human character instead of a motion capture alien, which might disappoint people. But then they point out that it makes sense because if they're in a time crunch to meet that date, the release date, which they still haven't pushed yet, ILM is only going to have so much time to create a brand new character for a brand new actor. So that part makes sense. Then they also followed it up with a report from Deadline that outlet is claiming that Paul Bettany is coming in to play a completely different character, but then Slash Film comes back and says that their source is trustworthy. And, you know, in just trying to assess what they're reporting and what I think might be happening, it does make sense for them to bring in another actor to play a role that was previously written for someone else and make sure that that person hits the same story beats. The character might not be exactly the same. Obviously, Paul Bettany's going to have a different take on the character if it is the same character, but it would make sense to me for them to keep some of that character intact when he existed before and just handing it over to a new actor.
Right, and I think with Michael K. Williams, the bottom line is this. I think he had a great statement when he acknowledged that he would love to come back, but he can't because of schedule. But he also didn't close the door to a future Star Wars movie role. So I'd love to see him in that universe at some point down the road.
That's kind of like a reverse Jabba, right? Like, because originally Jabba was like this fat dude in like a weird burlap sack jacket. Remember, he's like, "Hey, Solo, you owe me money." They're like, "Let's make him a slug."
Yeah.
And they CG'd him up. So, I mean, this is kind of the opposite. I didn't even know Michael K. Williams was going to be a CG character. So I'm kind of disappointed even to hear that right now. Like, I thought it was going to be Michael K. Williams, not like, I've got a bunch of dots on my face, you know? Like, and then he's a weird creature flapping around or whatever.
Reverse Jabba is a procedure you can get in Beverly Hills, so check on that. Let's move on to live Twitter questions. We got time for a couple quick ones here today. Wendy Lee Zaney is our gatekeeper. What do we got bright and early today, Wendy?
The first one comes from Jovan, who writes, any casting preference for the adult It sequel? My pick is Christina Hendricks as Beverly Marsh. Thanks.
Perri, you are the go-to source for all It-related material.
I've been thinking about this quite a bit, but thanks to those kids and hearing that question over and over in every single interview they do now, I have their choices ingrained in my mind. I picture Chris Pratt as an older Ben, and I picture Jessica Chastain as an older Bev. I do kind of want to see them go with lesser known folks, though. I do like the Christina Hendricks idea. I think that's a fair pick. She isn't as famous as, let's say, a Jessica Chastain, but you know, I think one of the things that it has going for it is those kids are very talented, but it's kind of fun to see fresh faces. And obviously they're young, so there's only so much we would know about them besides Finn Wolfhard. But why don't you just cast the most talented people out there? I don't care if they're A-listers or whatnot. I don't care if this movie makes $100 million this weekend and then they can afford whoever they want. I just want the best people for the job.
Yeah, I think the It name is going to carry enough whether you have star power or not. Schnepp, I know you went DiCaprio. You, Rocha, do you guys have any other ideas for adult losers?
I would go with all like just character actors, no A-list actors. I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't need like a name above it. That's all you need. So, I mean, I feel like the kids, yeah, you're right. Finn is the only person we really know of, and that's from Stranger Things. So I love when you have an unknown cast, and then you get to like, oh my God, that person's really talented, and it's a breakout star or a couple of stars. I think that's what the adult actors, just like these kids, one or two of them are going to break out and become big stars from this one movie. I think you also have that opportunity for the sequel.
Yeah.
Rocha.
Yeah, I agree. An ensemble piece, you got to get the right actors to fit into an ensemble. If you do an all-star game, it can lose itself, you know, and get caught up in like, oh, it's that person playing that, it's that person playing that, instead of focusing on what the story is and what the script is and what's going on between them. So just find the right actors that have the same magical chemistry that seems to be radiating off these kids from all the early reviews. That would be the only thing I would be focusing on if I was casting the film.
All right, let's do one more quick one and call it a day.
Okay, this one comes from Citizen M, who writes, you've all expressed skepticism that comic book movies will eventually fade away because there are a genre like comedies and horror. I love for them to be around forever, but comic book movies seem closer to westerns, which is rarely made now. So what makes comic book movies different from westerns?
Because they're very popular and they make a crap ton of money at the box office. And also, it's just source material that people are familiar with. A lot of times with westerns, it's a story that you have no idea what it is going into it. But comic books, even if you didn't know everything about Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman, you're aware of who these characters are, as opposed to somebody who comes to a small, dusty town and has a showdown. So I think there's a lot of differences, but I do enjoy the parallels of the question because westerns, and I think sometimes with any movie genre, comic books or whatever else you want to say, sometimes a western feel is just what the doctor ordered, Schnepp.
Road to Perdition, History of Violence, Ghost World. I could list 100 movies that are all based off comic books that have nothing to do with superheroes, so it's never going to go away.
Oh!
Who's next?
I don't know. That was just a good. That was
You
just a
were
good
so
mic drop.
polite and waiting so patient.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to call my name now?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to call
You've
either one of you
trained us,
kids'
Ellis.
names.
You've trained us.
No,
I
we're
feel
just turning
like
this car around.
you should finish off the show with the King of Westerns over there.
Okay.
But I see the similarities as well, but there's also so many differences, and I'm kind of sick of, is the comic book movie genre going to go away? It's not going anywhere. And if we ever do hit a point where people are sick of a certain something that you're doing, clearly when we have movies like Wonder Woman and Logan, they know how to pivot, and I think they're going to learn more and more, and we're going to get more and more exciting stuff, whether it's a comic book movie / Western or / other thing. I have no fears here.
Atomic Blonde, Sin City. Like I said, I can keep listening.
Boom, Rocha, you were great in stage coaching. About this.
God, let me tell you. No, the reason the westerns were big in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, we had you could go back. Actually, you go back and there was hundreds and hundreds of films that were done because there was a different studio system at the time, and also we were still a burgeoning country, so we were coming back to that time where we were still trailblazing and pioneering. That was the atmosphere at that time here in this country, which is why westerns were done so much. This is a whole other genre. It's just comic book movies, but like John's pointing out, there's so many different ways to explore a quote unquote comic book movie that has nobody wearing tights or a cape or doing these fantastical things. There is ways to, like, even Logan. Yes, he's got the claws, but it was an existential movie about confronting his mortality. That whole film is not about him being a superhero. It's about him coming to the end of his life. So I don't think the genre is ever going away, because also our entire country or world is now in this state of enjoying being young as long as possible, even more so than any generation before. And that's going to keep growing and building, and comic books are growing and building as well, and bring us back to being a kid and explore, and then also expand our understanding about our mortality, our thoughts. Dark Knight Returns is a perfect example of that, and The Watchmen. So those things are what's always going to be around. So I don't think the genre is ever going away. We're just going to explore and expand even further.
Rocha going deep. He loves westerns. Schnepp is great with comic book movies, and Perri, she just loves scary clowns. Thank you guys for tuning in to this very early edition of Movie Talk. We actually had a blast, and I'm kind of awake now for the next 30 minutes. All right, I want to thank everybody up here on the panel with me. Jon Schnepp, where can the kids find you?
Totally wide awake at 8 o'clock, wandering around the streets of Burbank, crying, looking for fires, and getting ready to shoot heroes later. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Bye.
Perri Nemiroff.
On Twitter and Instagram @PNemiroff. Follow that late into the evening because I will be awake and I will be taking pictures at the premiere.
John, Stephen Rocha.
You guys can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And we just dropped a new episode of the Top 10 Show, Top 10 Stephen King movies on the Schmoes Know Plus podcast channel. Listen to it.
Over there on the news desk, telling us dirty stories all day, Ashley Mova.
On Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, Ashley Mova. Happy Tuesday, guys.
The earliest Happy Tuesday on record, and last but certainly not least, Wendy Lee Zaney.
The Movie Couple channel on YouTube, @Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And I am merely Mark Ellis. Like I said in my tweet last night, we do have some cool New York announcements coming up. What I can tell you guys right now is that I will be back at New York Comedy Club October 5th and 6th, headlining 2 shows during Comic-Con. You can get tickets right now. Use promo code SCHMOES for a special discount. Subscribe right here to Collider Video, and thank you guys. We'll see you bright and early at 7 a.m. PST tomorrow for another edition of Collider Movie Talk.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.